All right. Finally, how are we doing on time? Oh, we've been talking for about an hour. I should probably stop soon. Finally, and I'll stop here, unions that are consummated by the generative act and are thus oriented to having and rearing children can make better sense of the other norms that shape marriage as we have known it. In other words, being married normally implies exclusivity and comprehensive sharing of life together through time, through a lifetime. Those norms that have been widely accepted and internalized make sense in the context of a spousal union, which is of its nature open to children, and really, frankly, don't make a lot of sense if that's not an integral part of what marriage is. If bodily union is essential to marriage, we can understand why marriage is incomplete and can be dissolved if it's not consummated, and why it should be, like the union of organs, into one healthy whole, total and lasting for the life of the parts, till death do us part. That is, the comprehensiveness of the union across the dimensions of each spouse's being call for a temporal comprehensiveness too, through time. Hence we have permanence, and at each time, hence exclusivity. This is clear also from the fact that the sort of bodily union integral to marriage grounds its special link to procreation, in light of which it is unsurprising that the norms of marriage should create conditions suitable for children, stable, harmonious conditions that sociology and common sense agree are undermined by divorce, which deprive children of an intact biological family. So, the inherent orientation to conjugal union to children deepens and extends whatever reasons spouses may have to stay together for life and to remain faithful. In relationships that lack this orientation, it is hard to see why permanence and exclusivity should be normative. Why? Why should they be normative? Why should permanence be normative? If you're not, if there's something better comes along, why not go with it? Why should monogamy be normative? Why should any of the norms of marriage be normative in a same-sex relationships? They don't make sense. They're traditions, but they're traditions that don't make a lot of sense, and traditions that don't make a lot of sense are eventually undone, rejected. We say, why are we doing this? Why do... Okay. So that's basically what I want to say about marriage. It seems to me that to recap the kind of the secular argument you can make, the first step would be to say, can you get marriage wrong or not? If you can get it wrong, then we have something to talk about, and we may have done you an injustice. If we can't get it wrong, then we can't get it right either, and there's no argument. It's just who has the most votes. Okay. But if you can't get it wrong, you can't be the victims of injustice. All right. If you can get it wrong, if it's and therefore correlatively you can get it right. How would you go about showing which one was right? Well, I think the best argument would be to show that the norms, that heterosexual marriage has an intrinsic relationship to the bearing of children, and it's this relationship to children that makes sense of the norms that traditionally govern marriage. In the absence of those, or intrinsic orientation to new life, the norms simply cease to make sense. They serve no function. If what we are doing in same-sex marriage is sanctioning romantic affiliations between people, it's hard to see why the state has any interest in regulating that. If I have an intense relationship with someone else over Ohio State football, I don't know why the state should be interested in that relationship. Why should the fact that my object of interest is romantic attraction make that an apt subject for federal or state regulation? Frankly, I don't care how you feel about, Ohio State football. Frankly, I don't care how you feel about Philip. I mean, if you feel about Philip, this is good, or you feel about Philip, this is bad, I'm sorry, or happy for you. But I decline to see why I, as a legislator, have a stake in your relationship. You can come, you can go. You might be happier if you stay, you might be happier if you go, but I don't know why the breaking up of your friendship should involve federal or state law. You know? But if you have children, then of course, and the good of the children, which is fostered by permanent relationship, then of course the norms make sense. It does make sense to regulate it by law because society has a stake in your children in a way that it doesn't have a stake in the durability of your relationship, you see. All right, there's a lot more to say, but I think I've talked long enough, and I hope I've given you enough to think about. Thank you. Yes.
I kept waiting for you to bring up propagation of the species and the continuum.
Well, that's what I meant, having children, yeah.
Okay.
That's the same thing through other words, yeah. Yes.
Going back to the original discussion about the image of God, male and female, perfect imaging and combination.
Mm-hmm.
How does that relate to the church stand on that? Would it make more sense for the church to say that a priest should be the perfect image of God and so he should be married?
That's a good argument. That's something to think about. That's not unreasonable. The way to the way to think about it is to think of the church not in lonely, isolated splendor in his rectory, magically free to watch football on Saturday afternoons, free from child responsibilities. Although that's a powerful incentive, I must say. But it's in relationship to the church, to the people of God, that relationship is described as spousal. Christ is married to the church. The church, all of the church is his bride, the scripture tells us, and the priest gets in on that part of the relationship. Now, we are like married men in some ways. We are married to a wife who is infallible, you see.
All men are.
Infallibility is a shared charism, I guess. Yes. Sure. Yeah, I'd only heard half of what you said. Tom, let me repeat your question back to you to see if I've got it. Is your question basically that how come 80-year-olds who are past childbearing age can get married? Because they're past childbearing. It's the same principle. How could someone who is accidentally sterile be getting married? They can get married because they can still possibly engage in a type of act which is reproductive in type. What is keeping it from working is the de facto condition of their age and body, not an intrinsic quality of the relationship itself. Now pushing this forward, I would say that sacraments are symbols. I mean, if a non-symbolic sacrament is a non-starter, you know, sacraments have to work on us on below rational levels, and symbols do that. And I would argue that the male-female dichotomy, the split, the relationship between the two, is symbolically present in a marriage between two 80-year-olds. They will still find each other very different across the breakfast table. And they will still be incomprehensible to each other, which is the foundation for any good marriage. But anyway, you've got the man-woman symbolism going on, which is taken up in sacraments to take up creature-creator relationship. So I think it's symbolically and therefore sacramentally apt. Whereas if I'm right about my reading of Paul on a level of faith, if this theological interpretation is right, then the link between homosexuality and idolatry is really about corrupting the divine image in the human being, which is only Adam in relationship of male and female, not male and male or female and female. See, that would sacramentalize a faulty view of creation. This is, kind of serious business. Yes?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.